2020, The Origin. In an old western mining town, located deep in the foothills north of Phoenix, Arizona, an old man sits on the upper rear deck of his refurbished 1870s saloon, where he now makes his home, silently rocking in an old leather and cowhide oak rocking chair, a bottle of Miller Lite and a shot of Bailey's on the small round table to his right. A younger man sits in a similar old oak rocking chair, dead still, with a bottle of water on the same small round table to his left. On the old man's side of the table sits a nickel-plated .357 single-action Western-style revolver with wooden grips branded with an eagle on one side and a hawk on the other. Bradley Cooper sings "Maybe It's Time" from a Bluetooth speaker on the small round table. A dark and haunting painting of 4 winged mystical warriors on horseback hangs over the wood-burning fireplace behind the 2 rocking chairs and the weaponized table. The old man stares pensively into the clouds. He is preparing to take a long journey. No need to pack, for the mind traveler needs no luggage. His voice reaffirms his age as he begins to speak slowly and thoughtfully. His fingers stroke his thick mustache, which extends to the bottom of his chin, as if the motion is somehow opening the door behind which his life is locked. And his mind begins to bleed. The younger man listens intently. The North Shore. I was drowning, and I knew it. I was headed down for a 3rd time, out of control, disoriented, and in a state of panic. I knew I was drowning, and yet was not willing to bring myself under control. A strange mix of calm and fear filled my mind as a cornucopia of dead and mutilated bodies and skeletons, some in ripped and torn military uniforms, along with small white and gold-trimmed coffins filled with zombie-like babies, some with 2 heads, drifted slowly through the warm Hawaiian waters surrounding me, all seemingly overlaid with a spirit-like vision of what appeared to be 4 mystical winged warriors on horseback, the smell of gunpowder and fresh-cut grass ever present. A strange peacefulness came over me, as memories of horror, mayhem, and murder raced past, as if I were reliving them all at once. Deep in the soul of death, I found myself sinking to the depths of eternity with no lanterns to guide me, only the deep black of death calling. Strangely, the 4 mystical winged warriors, armed with cross, sword, staff, and spear, seemed to be gently nudging me out of death's grip. I was suddenly pushed up from below and brought to the surface, coughing and flailing and vomiting salt water. "God damn it, John, what the fuck are you doing? Get your shit together," was what I heard as I was pulled towards the shore and dragged up onto a moonlit Hawaiian beach on the north shore of the island of Oahu. As I spewed seawater and vomited uncontrollably, my 2 friends and employees, who had just saved me from being tomorrow's headlines in the Honolulu Gazette, continued towards the beach house from which we had emerged 45 minutes earlier, leaving me alone to self-recover and get over it in private, as they knew I'd want to do. It was the elaborate home of a local well-heeled celebrity whose drug-filled luau and moonlit Hawaiian night gave us the bright idea to go diving for lobster at 1 a.m. in a drug and alcohol-induced state of euphoria. Having regained my composure, I headed to the house, somewhat sober, yet still in the border world I'd entered thanks to the alcohol and chemicals I'd ingested over the last several hours. And as I entered the home and approached the 30-foot-long bar filled with local partygoers, from a 10-year-old in a bathing suit smoking an acid-soaked joint at one end, to an 80-year-old man dressed in a butler's suit saturated with gin at the other, I could hear my friends Alex and Roy roaring with laughter and making fun of the Coast Howley, a white guy from California, who they just saved from his own stupidity. And me, of course. I approached the bar, now for the most part in control of myself, and resuming my normal, better-than-thou, quasi-badass attitude and persona, Katie smiled at me and raised her chin slightly, I'm good, I said, as she pulled me close and let everyone know to whom she belonged. Her long black hair and hippie bangs surrounded a perfectly tanned, high-cheekboned Southern California face. She was broadcasting a smile only possible when everyone else in the room fades from view, and all you see is the one you love unconditionally. And fortunately for me, I was the lucky guy. She was 21 years old and as beautiful inside as out. Perfect figure, long legs, 5 feet 8 inches tall, with a young heart, ready to love and care in the way only a young, pure heart not yet scarred by tragedy and betrayal can do, and free to feel and love with complete abandon. This was Katie, and I returned her love just as unconditionally, at least for the moment. She handed me a beer, kissed my lips as only she could, a kiss that promised there were bigger and better things to follow whenever and wherever I wished to pursue them. I was in love with Katie. I was in love with the moment, and I was devoid of fear, knowing full well the inevitability of sudden death and not caring when it came for me. There was no future, only now. As Alex and Roy approached, I briefly wondered if I had been trying to die out there in the deep blue darkness. Dismissing the thought, I thanked them both, yet jokingly told them not to do me any favors should the situation repeat itself. It was in that moment that my world would begin to spin out of control. A tall, beefy Italian guy I didn't know approached us. Looking straight at me, he said, "You dumb fucking asshole. You should know better than to dive when you're fucked up." "Who the fuck are you?" I replied. "I'm the guy who's going to bitch slap you if—" Well, he didn't get any further. A swift right hand to his nose and a well-placed kick in the balls abruptly turned him into a babbling crybaby with blood and snot spewing everywhere from his badly busted nose. As some other guests kindly guided him to the closest restroom, Katie gave me that time to go look. I smiled, took her hand, and overly politely said, "Good evening, gentlemen," to Alex and Roy while heading for the door. Once outside, I became uncontrollably obsessed with having sex with Katie. And when we reached my 1966 Mustang convertible in the driveway, I leaned her over the trunk of the car, lifted the silky summer dress she was wearing. Then I heard, "Hey, asshole, I'm going to cut you and that howly whore bitch until nobody can recognize either one of you." I turned to see the goon with a broken nose standing about 30 yards away with what appeared to be a machete in his hand. Instinct and 9 years of living on the edge took over. Signaling Katie to move to the far side of the car, I quickly moved towards the driver's side of the Mustang, where I had a .357 Magnum stashed into the convertible's boot. Drawing the weapon, I turned to the asshole, whose nose had not yet stopped bleeding, just as he began to charge. "Don't kill him," was the message my brain set to my right index finger, which was, at the moment, making love to the trigger of my .357. He was about 15 yards away and charging at full speed like a madman when I calmly took aim at his left kneecap and blew it off. Large chunks of blood-splattered bone and skin exploded into the night air as the bullet hit its mark. I figured I did him and myself both a favor. I kept him out of the graveyard and me out of a messy situation that even the keeper might not be able to handle. He went down like the little bitch he was, screaming and crying that he couldn't believe that I'd shot him. Katie had the Mustang running and was behind the wheel when I leaped over the passenger door and slid into the seat. Before I could utter the words, "Let's get out of here," we were on the 2-lane highway leading towards Hialeah and Sunset Beach. The past and present were merging in a collage of images as we sped smoothly along the coast highway. "It will never be over for you, New Mex," were the words carved into the walls of the deepest caverns of my soul. My current name is John Bridge, and I am not who I appear to be. To Alex, Roy, and Katie, and anyone else who knows me, I'm a tough-talking, easy to get along with, but quick to anger and even quicker to react owner of a rather large used car lot in Honolulu, Hawaii. The year? It's 1971. I'm 27 years old, and I hold in my possession dark and unspeakable truths that can never be revealed. It is these secret truths that haunt me at the 3 o'clock hour of the morning, the darkest hour when the passions and horrors arise from the depths of our soul and remind us who we really are. Perhaps it is these secrets that cause me to feel the need to put myself in dangerous situations and make me wish I don't come out of them, for I have not yet learned to live with them or deal with them. My heart, I believe, is at war with my soul. By the time we had arrived at our beach cottage just west of Sunset Beach, I was sobering up enough to reflect on what had just occurred. Not that I particularly gave a shit about the asshole I shot, or the possible consequences, whether legal or retaliatory. I just didn't give a fuck. Of course, I was not yet aware of who it was I just crippled. Katie and I lived in a one-bedroom cottage at the end of a small peninsula. Sunroom, breakfast nook, and kitchen downstairs, bedroom upstairs. It was perfect for us, very private, with a lawn and palm trees in the backyard, 2 of which held a fishnet hammock, and beyond which there was a semi-rocky beach. At night, when the tide came in, pools would form among the rocks as the sea hugged and caressed the shoreline, and then flowed around and over boulder-sized lava formations. In the morning, when the tide went out, miniature white sand beaches appeared from among the large rocks, providing several private room-sized white sand-carpeted areas in which to love and laugh and play. It was a place where your soul found time to speak to you, and the wounds in your heart found time to heal a little. It was, in fact, as close as I would ever get to any semblance of inner peace. It was our place, Katie's and mine. We were lovers there. We were children there. We were together there, alone in thought, but together. We made love that night, not conventional love-making, but rather a version of what the Japanese refer to in a much broader sense as shibumi, or the art of perfecting simplistic beauty. When applied sexually, it can be referred to as mental intercourse, wherein both participants must arrive at a sexual climax at the same time without talking to or touching each other or oneself naked. Kneeling on your heels about 2 feet apart with minimal movement, direct eye contact, and mental sexual stimulation only. It is, without a doubt, one of the most gratifying forms of sex that a man and woman can experience together. It takes a profoundly personal and sexual bonding between the partners, extending through passion to the far side of obsession, plus practice, concentration, imagination, and level 3 climax control, sometimes hovering at the edge of climax while waiting for your partner to reach their point of hovering. As it is a revised version of Kisashi sex, which revealed itself as a revision within the level 4 Japanese lovemaking, it is rarely achieved, most generally resulting in both parties giving tacit consent to revert to conventional sex games. To actually achieve sexual shibumi, or kisashi sex, both parties must reach an orgasm at the exact same moment. Katie and I had had only one successful kisaki after 35 minutes of intense mind-over-body control. It was such an unbelievable experience that we seemed to chase after it ever since by starting each romantic encounter in this manner. On this particular night, perhaps due to the excessive amounts of alcohol, drugs ingested, and turn of events, we lasted only about 5 minutes before we reverted to some basic raw fucking, which of course achieved the same results, less the mental satisfaction that the kisaki sex brings, but quite satisfying nonetheless. Damn, she was a great piece of ass. With the coming of the dawn, the miniature beaches reappeared in the backyard along with the annoying reality of a ringing phone. And a ringing phone at 7 a.m. on a Sunday was not a good thing. It was Alex. Alex Kono was a born and bred Hawaiian who worked as one of my managers at the car lot. I'd met Alex in a bar in Waikiki the first night I arrived on the island. He was young, energetic, good-looking, very street-savvy. It was a game of pool that got us talking, and as it turned out, he knew everyone on the island, most of whom were his cousins, or so he kept saying. It was his connections that enabled me to open my car lot so quickly. We had it up and running and turning a profit within 3 months of my arrival. And now it was those same cousin connections that were about to save my ass. That asshole with the broken nose and missing kneecap is known to my cousin Benny, who works for Honolulu Vice Squad. Apparently, he's a badass from the mainland who has friends in high political places within the Vietnamese government. He's been on the island for 2 days and's been asking a lot of questions about a certain Howley who owns the car lot in Honolulu. That'd be you, JB. He told my cousins he has friends who are interested in your time as an Army Ranger in Vietnam. Says you were involved with some heavy shit in and around Cambodia during the Vietnam War. Is that true? You never mentioned it. I was never in the Army, let alone a Ranger in Vietnam, so what else did he say? Says this guy's superiors are trying to fill in some gaps in your past, and the guy doesn't seem to know why. Guess he's just a mutt, high-collar gopher, if you will. My cousin says he heard about what happened last night, but nobody's reported it, so no one's looking for you. He does say that this badass you seem to have turned into a gimp is not the type to let go. Says maybe you should have killed him. Says he'll keep me posted when the guy checks in. In the meantime, he says you need to watch your back. This guy is high-dollar dangerous and heavily connected. He doesn't see him letting go of this anytime soon. He also wants me to let you know that if all this bullshit interrupts his getting stoned and cruising through life, he will not be happy. All right, Alex, thank you, and thank your cousin. Are you on the lot? No, it's Sunday. We're closed. Oh, well, I thought perhaps you were showing a little initiative and opening up on Sunday. With all due respect, boss, fuck you. Ha ha. Have a great day, Alex, and thanks again for being my archangel and saving my life on a regular basis. Would you knock it off, by the way? I'm trying to die. As I hung up the phone, the doorbell rang. It was Roy. Roy was another guy whom I'd met shortly after arriving on the islands. He was 5'8", about 40 years worth of rock-hard neck muscle and an attitude to match. We had met in a bar. Yes, I spent a lot of time in bars. He'd been sitting a couple of stools down from me in this dive gin joint out by the airport when a 6'5", 300-pound Samoan seated on the other side of me decided, in his drunken stupor, that I was everything he hated about Howleys. He proceeded to indulge himself in ridiculing all white guys, which he somehow assumed I represented. I smiled and nodded and tried to placate and ignore him at the same time, as he looked just a little large for me to handle without causing a whole lot of commotion. I was just there to have a quiet beer and work through my advertising budget for the upcoming month. Now, just as I was deciding that this fucking Samoan needed a lesson in manners, I see Roy stand up and leave. Well, guess my fellow Howley saw trouble coming, didn't want any part of it. Hey, fucking Howley, the monster to my right said to me, I'm gonna fuck you up. Just then, the door opened, and Roy let out a whistle that is typically used to call a dog. The gorilla and I both turned to look at him, wondering which one of us he was calling to. Hey, you, big fucking dumb Samoan, get the fuck out of here. I was thinking, who the fuck is this? The Samoan said, Hey, guess other dumb fucking Howley wants his ass kicked first, and headed for the door at the end of the bar, about 20 feet from where I was sitting. He opened the door. Next thing I knew, the asshole Samoan is flailing backwards with his arms waving in the air like a pigeon attempting to perform a reverse landing. He tried, unsuccessfully, to stay on his feet as he went past me and finally crashed into the jukebox and slid clumsily into the floor. Roy said, You may want to get out of here before that stupid fuck wakes up unless you feel like wrestling with an angry gorilla. Once outside, Roy said, Hey, if you want to have a quiet beer, there's an upscale restaurant just down the street with a great lounge called the South Seas. If you want to slide down there, I'll buy you a beer. I'll meet you there, but I owe you the beer. Great right cross you got there, I said, referring to the punch he landed, which had sent the Samoan 20 feet backwards. That was my left jab, son, he responded with a smirk on his face. The right drops them where they stand. It was the beginning of a great friendship. although one that Roy, unfortunately, would not survive. "Hey, Roy, come on in." I don't want to disturb you on your Sunday, boss. Just checking on you. Did Alex fill you in on the guy you shot?" "Yeah, he said some goon from the mainland." "Yeah, badass, heavily connected goon who'd been asking a lot of questions about you from what I hear." "Yeah, well, between his knee and his nose, I suspect he'll be off the street for a few days. Want a beer?" "Sure. I'm sure it's happy hour somewhere." Just then, Katie came down the stairs, rocking a tank top and a pair of short shorts that could not possibly be unhappy with their current assignment. I made a mental note to say a prayer that I might be reincarnated as a pair of those short shorts owned by Katie. She came directly over to me, displaying a body language and a smile that only a woman who had most recently been fully sexually satisfied could display, and said, "Hey, babe, you guys want some breakfast?" And she kissed me on the lips with her body fully against mine and then headed to the kitchen. Damn, I thought. If Roy weren't here, I'd take her right back upstairs. At the same time wondering if she actually was as beautiful and sexy as I thought she was, or if I was just so in love with her that I only saw what I wanted to see. No matter, it worked for both of us at the moment, for me at least. The moment is all there is. I live in the present. For the future, including the next minute, was non-existent for me. The future is right now. Roy and I each grabbed a cold bottle of Miller Lite and wandered out into the backyard to enjoy the ocean as Katie began cooking up what was starting to smell like a great breakfast feast. Unbelievable, she cooks too. "Tell me if it's none of my business," Roy said, "but what the fuck is going on here? Last night you walk away from what was nothing short of a thwarted suicide attempt, only to totally fuck up a guy who turns out to be a heavyweight government badass investigating you. And you, according to the Honolulu PD, are some ex-Army Ranger badass with a hole in his past. Am I fucking dreaming or what?" You must never let anyone know anything about you or your past. Always stay in the present. You are who you appear to be, period. To tell the truth, Roy, I have no fucking idea what the fuck they're talking about. I've never even been in the Army, let alone the Army Rangers. I was first married when I was 18 years old. I received a 3A draft classification, which kept me out of the military altogether. I've never been to Cambodia or even Vietnam for that matter. Looks like a case of mistaken identity to me, nearest I can figure. Not that I don't believe you, boss, but you sure look like someone who's been trained in how to fight and use a weapon. Way you dispatched that guy last night was slick. One quick stiff arm to the nose and it was broken. One perfectly placed shot to the kneecap, it was gone. Damn impressive, I'd say. Well, thanks for the compliment, I think, but I was never in the Army. As for training, I grew up in New York. I was on the streets at 8 years old. You learn to defend yourself real quick in that environment. Fists, sticks, rocks, knives, and guns. You learn it all, or you don't survive. Comes in handy sometimes. I guess it does, boss. I guess it does. Glad you're on my team, or should I say, I'm glad I'm on your team. So what's next? What are we going to do about this mistaken identity thing? If they ever come for you, stay in character, and I'll reach out. Remember, stay in character at all costs. Well, I figure we'll be a little extra cautious, keep selling a lot of cars, and let the Honolulu PD sort it out. The smell of bacon and eggs and toast and coffee had increasingly grown stronger as we talked, to the point it could no longer be ignored. "Let's eat," I said, ending a potentially dangerous conversation. 6 days later, Saturday, 7:30 a.m. The car lot was fast becoming the #1 used car lot operation on the island of Oahu. With an inventory over 300 cars and an advertising budget of $100,000 per month. I was turning 300 units a month at an average gross profit of $3,000 per unit for a total gross profit of $900,000 per month. This had been accomplished in just a little over 12 months on the island. I was not happy about the prospect of having to shut it down and disappear into the mist when I was netting over $100,000 a month. Morning, boys and girls. We ready to crank it up today? It's Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, and Saturday is game day. We need a minimum of 50 units today. That's 2 units each. So if you're hungover or your ass is dragging, do whatever you need to do, Coke, Benny's, weed, whatever you got to do to get cranking. By 9 a.m., this place will be crawling with buyers, and we don't want to miss any of them. So get your shit together. Get your attitude straight. Make it happen. We hit 50 units, and there's a $100 cash spiff for every unit sold. That's over and above commissions and bonuses, and payable in cash on your way out the door tonight. Leave before we hit 50, you get nothing. So let's make it happen, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, buyers are liars, so no means yes. And with our $100,000 advertising budget and average monthly sales of 300 units, that means that every swinging dick that walks on this lot costs me $333 to get him here for you. So, if any of you let a customer go without turning them over to another salesperson, you owe me $333, payroll deductible, or just go ahead and leave with them. Now let's go. I want every car unlocked and started before the customers get here, so let's make it happen, ladies and gentlemen. We need a day. Call me sick, but I love the damn car business. As Alex hustled everyone out the door, Roy passed out cross-top Benny's, speed, to anyone who wanted him. I was headed back to my office when I heard, "Mr. Bridge, telephone call, line 2, please. Mr. Bridge, line 2, please." John Bridge here, how can I help you? Be at the chart house at Ollie Yacht Harbor at midnight. Click. It was the keeper, and I knew he was correct. It was time to go. Someone had the scent. Someone was too close. It was time for John Bridge to disappear and someone else to emerge, somewhere else, different name, different game, same MO. Make money, enjoy life, and stay deep. This is not easy, I thought, as I went to the safe in the floor of the storage shed in the back of the lot. But it pays well. Never take more than $100,000 in cash for pocket change. I'll retrieve the rest and bring it to you. In this case, the rest was close to $2.4 million between what I had brought from Riverside, California, and the profits made in Hawaii. I had no problem with following the rules, as I knew the keeper would see that the balance arrived wherever I landed. The fact that the meeting was set at midnight, the harbor was code for, "Your cover's been blown, you're leaving tonight." No goodbyes, no I love yous, no thank yous, no luggage. I must carry on throughout the day as I usually would, and in the morning a mutilated body would be found and identified as John Bridge, owner of the car lot in Honolulu. Alex and Roy would mourn, Katie would cry, and me, I'd become someone else, somewhere else. And this would continue until I managed to find an identity that would not be compromised. Such is the reality of my existence. Never really loving, never really caring, never growing any permanent roots. I arrived at the chart house at 11:55 p.m., having left the lot at 11:10 p.m. after a 62-car day, $186,000 I would never see. As I approached the bar, a very pretty young woman with an uncanny resemblance to Katie casually bumped into me and spilled her martini on my shirt. Apologizing profusely, she insisted on buying me a drink. I agreed, but only if she joined me. She nodded her approval as we sat down at the bar. "Do you know who I am?" she whispered. "I assume you are connected to the keeper, yes?" "Exactly. We'll have a couple more drinks, enjoy a bit of laughter together, which will lead to romance, and then leave together, and I will become the mysterious woman you left the bar with. At dawn, a body will turn up on the beach and be identified as John Bridge, and your true identity will never be discovered." "Yes, ma'am. I know the drill. Cheers."